Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Strategy Game Podcast. I'm so honored and excited for this episode. We have Dan Owolabi on the podcast today. Dan is just a wealth, I feel like, of wisdom from all aspects. And Dan, I'm going to let you chime in on your bio here, but I'm just going to give the overview. He has a bachelor's and a master's in American history and leadership. He was a pastor for 10 years. He now leads an international nonprofit where he works with faith-driven business leaders from around the world. He's written a book called Authentic Leadership that was a #1 new release on Amazon. And he now has his own leadership consulting practice where he leads masterminds and all kinds of great things that you're going to tell us more about. And he has an amazing wife and 2 beautiful girls. So Dan, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
It's good to be here. It's really good to be here.
So great. So tell us just a little bit about your story and how all of it weaves together, because I know we talk a lot about identity-based strategy and how your identity really and the things and experiences that you go through throughout your life shape you and shape your journey. And so can you just tell us a little bit about what that's looked like for you?
Yeah, absolutely, Lauren. No, that's a great question. And I think you're 100% right. I think your identity absolutely subconsciously shapes a lot of the decisions that you make. It's important to be aware of where you find your identity. I think for me, I made a lot of mistakes when it came to identity and really trying to understand the way I was perceived to the outside world and getting comfortable in my own skin. My story begins, really with my parents, right? My mom and dad were both Nigerian immigrants. They came to the United States in the late 1970s, before I was born. The thing that's unique about that, I mean, other than that, the thing that is extra unique about that is that both my parents were deaf. They couldn't hear.
Wow.
And so I'm fluent in sign language, grew up in a household where mom and dad were both deaf. If you could imagine all the challenges that potentially come with that,
Wow.
Where, you got to interpret at, parent-teacher conferences, you're at the store with, the grocery clerk, like there's just all kinds of situations where I had to do things differently than other kids did. Rarely had kids over to the house. We lived in a small town, so I was always the black kid with deaf parents, because it was an all-white community.
Wow.
So there was just a lot there, yeah. And so I write about this in the book. For a long time, I really ran from that identity. Didn't want people to know that was my background because it was embarrassing and you're just the weird kid, and everyone has all kinds of questions about growing up with deaf parents, which it's a unique thing.
Sure.
But the truth is, there were strategic moments in my life where I really had to come to terms with who I was and just rest in that. And I think once I did that, and once people do that, then you're able to find authentic ways to be yourself and also to help other people and serve other people.
Yeah.
And when that clicked for me, I knew what I had to offer the world and I was comfortable in who I was. Suddenly, I was really able to become an authentic leader and feel like I had confidence in any room that I walked into. It was a long process, but that's really the value of finding your identity.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you finally, I love how you said rested really in who you were and what your identity was, that unlocked your authentic leadership, right? That essentially unlocked what you're doing today in terms of leadership. So take us down that road of, resting in who you are, really embracing it, and then to all of the things that you're doing today, really leading the nonprofit. If you could tell us a little bit about that, because it's incredible. And then the consulting work that you're doing, what does that look like for you now?
Yeah. So, for me, I always felt like I was a pastor for a really long time. And, I always felt like I had a natural bent towards leadership. My interests always found themselves at the intersection of faith and leadership. Commitment to Jesus, but also commitment to leading people well. And so when the opportunity came to start Branches Worldwide, it just seemed like a perfect fit. And so what Branches Worldwide is an international faith-based nonprofit that works with 30 leaders in 30 countries. And the kicker is we work with them for 30 years.
Love it.
Because we know that there are particular individuals in any community around the world who have an outsized influence on the direction of the community. No one can do everything, but there are individuals who, when they speak up, their voices are heard. And that tends to be business leaders. And so what we do is we work with business leaders who love Jesus, they love their community, and they love their business. And if they can create a thriving business within a community, and they could do so much good. Like they can fund schools and they can provide jobs and they can point people towards a better life. They can do all kinds of things
Yeah.
just by being authentic to who they are and running an incredible business that's growing. And so we come alongside them and we actually help them do that so that they can be a blessing to their community.
That's amazing. And I love that it's that long-term journey. So it's not just that you're coming in and providing something for the short term. No, you're walking alongside of them for those extended time periods. So what is that like for you? How much, I mean, have you seen a lot of growth as you walk in those leaders? Is it so exciting to see their growth? Like what does that look like? Or do any examples come to mind?
Oh, it is a lot of fun. I mean, so since we started it, the world for me personally has shrunk.
Yeah,
I mean, it is amazing, especially post-COVID or as COVID is like winding down.
sure.
You know, Zoom becomes the international language of communication. Everybody, you can Zoom with anybody right now, you know, whether they're in Costa Rica or Thailand. And so it's been really thrilling to travel around the world and sit at the kitchen table of an entrepreneur in Costa Rica, get to know him, his wife, his kids, and then literally like 6 months later, do a Zoom call and show him my wife and my kids and, you know, just really get to know each other well. So it feels like an authentic relationship because it is. And that's what we want.
Yeah, that's cool. So really knowing the whole person, that's that authentic leadership. And then tell us a little bit about your consulting work, the masterminds that you lead, all the offerings there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a couple things. It's called Owolabi Leadership. And, you know, it's me and a couple staff members. The fortunate thing is I've got great people who work with me and are able to run things while I'm focusing on branches. I've got people who are working on things in Owolabi Leadership and vice versa. But, you know, what we do is we do mastermind groups, which is, you know, entrepreneurs, leaders, CEOs that come together, and they're really looking for that camaraderie and challenge. They want information for sure, but they want to know that they're safe and they want to know someone's pushing them to reach their full potential because they don't very often get that in the places that they work. That's the one side. The other side is we do keynote speeches to different corporations. We did Wendy's last year. Certified Angus Beef is another client. We do just really great work with them. And then I wrote a book, just like you mentioned in the bio, called Authentic Leadership. And that came out of Owolabi Leadership. You know, we work with leaders in all spectrums. And we really tend to resonate with leaders that are faith-driven, that understand that, you know, Jesus is the reason why they have any sort of influence and they want to steward that for his sake. But we work really with anybody. And the message that we're trying to deliver works with everybody.
Tell me about authentic leadership. I mean, I realize there is a whole book on it and people should definitely go get the full book. But tell us a little bit about what that looks like in a nutshell.
Yeah. So the book starts, it's a great question, Lauren. The book starts with the typical experience that every entrepreneur, every leader has, which is insecurity. It almost doesn't matter what level you're at. As soon as you get to an opportunity where you have more influence than you did before, right on its heels comes a feeling of insecurity where you feel like you have something to hide, you have something to prove, or you have something to lose. Good. And, you know, it's either one of those three or all of those three. And so, you know, you can look a leader in the eye and you can tell if she feels insecure or if he feels insecure. Just ask a couple questions below the surface and, you know, and you can start to see that. So the goal of the book is to really help leaders feel comfortable being authentic, but not the kind of authenticity where you just say whatever's on your mind whenever you want to because you're just being real, you know, air quotes, you're just being real.
Yeah.
But really you are being the best version of yourself in the service of other people. You know who you are, you know what you have to offer the world. You're not trying to hide anything. You're not trying to prove anything to anybody. You're not afraid of losing any sort of face or clout or whatever. You are simply there to use everything you have to serve other people, to serve the mission. And when you do that, suddenly you're able to just be, like you said earlier, just unbelievably confident and settled in who you are. And people are drawn to that. I mean, more often than not, everyone is trying to pretend that they're somebody else. And when you find someone who is authentic, you're like, give me more of that. I just want to hang out with that lady all day long.
Yes, that's so good. Okay, I love that. So the three things you said, everybody has something to hide, prove, or lose. That really struck me. And I know that's going to resonate with our audience a lot. So that's good. And then do you give them, I mean, what is the tangible takeaway for them? Is it like a guide to, okay, here's how you can operate this way, the best version of yourself in service to others? Or is it, hey, this is what's happening with insecurity. This is what you need to be aware of, like starting that uncovering process?
Mm. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Lauren, I can tell you read a lot of books because you can understand the direction these could go. Yeah, the reality is you're exactly right. It is more of a guide. In fact, I give four different things that you can experience or that you will experience as you are becoming an authentic leader. This isn't like a, hey, do this first, then this, because that would be pretty inauthentic, right? If you're following like a step-by-step guide, but it is like, as you're going through this, you'll know you're on the right path when you're experiencing these things. And so the first one is learning to understand yourself. That's the first key, where you just settle in and you recognize that there are some parts of your story that are painful. And there's other parts of your story that are helpful. But all of those things incorporated together really create an environment where you feel settled. If you own your story and you become the author of your own story, which is the root word of authentic, then you're better positioned to help other people because you're not worrying about what they think of you. You already are okay with who you are, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is learning to lead yourself, right? You understand yourself first, then you lead yourself. That's just being disciplined. Leading yourself first before you even expect to lead other people. The third part is understanding other people. That's empathy, getting into their shoes, learning to listen really well, building rapport, right? Now you're the kind of person who's self-assured, right? Because you know your own story. You're self-disciplined, so you actually get results. And now you're able to connect with people personally because you've taken the time to listen to them and see them as individuals. You understand what's at stake in their life. And you're like, okay, I might not agree with what you do, but I get why you do it, right? And that all those things position you well to do the last thing, which is to actually lead other people. Because now you're the type of person people want to follow and you know them well enough to actually lead them to where they need to go. And so all that happens, of course, sort of in a path. And then when you get to the leadership piece, leadership is just so much easier when you sort of work through those pieces before you get to the final part of casting vision, challenging people, telling people what you think can happen in their life, and then asking them to take a big step forward and get that.
That is so good. As you're talking about these 4 points, I'm thinking sometimes I'm a very task-oriented person, and this has been quite the journey for me, and I'm always on it. But I think I can think of leadership, and maybe some business owners can relate to this as a task. Like, okay, what are my leadership tasks this week? What do I need to get done, right? But leadership is really like who you are becoming. Like it truly is your identity, and it should like overflow onto others, right? As you understand yourself, as you lead yourself first, then as you practice empathy with others, and then that leadership, that leading others comes. Is that right? Thought I was having as you were talking about these 4 points. It's amazing. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. What are some of the most common hurdles you see as you work with leaders globally and in the United States here through your masterminds? Anything that comes to mind in terms of things you're seeing repetitively?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, COVID-19 is something that I think has really uncovered this over and over and over again. Most leaders, I think, feel like they need to posture. They feel like they have to project that, like they have it all together. Yeah. I mean, this time last year, we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? Still are kind of coming out of it. But this time last year, in the middle of the pandemic, and nobody knows what's going to happen. No one had any idea this was going to come. No one could have predicted it. And then you've got people out there acting like they know what's going to happen next, because they feel like they have to, like, well, we're going to be fine. And no, nobody knows. And employees, they can see through that. Investors, they can see through that. True. And so the ones that really built trust during this time were the ones who were authentic enough to say, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's next. But here's what I do know, that we're going to take this hill together. We're going to take it as we come. We're going to keep on meeting. We're going to keep on trying. We're going to keep on working. We're going to figure it out together. I don't know this, but I do know that we are going to stick with it. Those were the best leaders. And I think what I found was that leaders oftentimes needed a safe space in order to say, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. And then to hear other people say, yeah, me neither.
I don't either. Right.
Yeah. But then to be able to say that to themselves, and then they say that to a safe group, and then to have the confidence to find the right words to say that to the team. And so, that was what we really provided for a lot of people during the pandemic. And it was amazing to watch how people responded to that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's really good. That safe space. And then I love how you just even worded that. Like, I don't know what's next, but I do know we're going to do it together. And I think that gives people all the comfort in the world. And people are really discerning. I don't think we give people enough credit for how discerning they actually are. And so
Yeah.
maybe that's part of the reason that a lot of leaders think they might be able to get away. But
Yes.
make
Yeah.
it
Maybe they don't know I'm faking it. Like maybe they don't know that I just lied to them.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is true. So that's really good. Let's talk a little bit about renewal. And I know this relates to authentic leadership, but the biggest thing I've been seeing in this season with a lot of the leaders that we've worked with on the strategy side of things is just they're just tired. They're just really tired. It's been a longer, draining season, I think, with just navigating all of the things around COVID-19. And so I would just love to hear any thoughts that you have or anything that you're seeing, and how to help leaders combat the weariness, how to recharge.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. You're hitting it right on the head. I mean, the symptoms, the combination of working from home,
Yeah.
just constant challenges, pivoting like every 30 seconds because you don't know what's coming. Leaders who are entrepreneurs tend to be workaholics anyway. And if you don't have a clear break, then that's challenging. Then you watch the news all the time. There's so many things that really can weigh you down. You're hitting it on the head.
Mhm.
I think what I've seen, and you've probably seen this too, Lauren, what I've seen is that leaders oftentimes need permission to take a break.
Mm.
And they need permission from someone who's outside of their immediate circle to give it to them and say, hey, it's okay to take a break. I think that's important. But at the same time is they need to know what to do when they take a break. I think oftentimes leaders don't know exactly what refills and recharges them. They don't have a quick go-to. I would say to an entrepreneur today, hey, what is it that you can do today? If you had the entire day off on your own, that you could do, that you would come back exactly ready to go and charged up 2 days from now? What is it, that one thing that you could do? I think oftentimes people just don't know. They
Yeah.
kind of know. They think, why you go on vacation? But I think in reality, just turning your brain off isn't what people need. They need something to come back better than ever, ready to go and shot out of a cannon. And
Yeah.
so I would say giving people permission to take a break and then actually pinning them down and saying, like, what is it exactly that it takes to get you recharged? Is it time with family? Is it walking in the woods? Is it going on vacation? Is it watching movies? Is it putting a puzzle together? Is it, everybody has something.
Mm.
Being able to narrow that down and then getting permission to engage in that. Because frankly, here's the reality, Lauren. If you're drained, right, you're constantly drained, you are no good to anybody. The best gift you can give your team is a healthy self. You know that. You've talked about that before. And so I think that's something that's super critical for leaders to understand. And then to practice so their team can practice the same thing.
That is really good. Yeah, I love that. It's been interesting. I find that, and I don't know if you find this to be true for you, but prior to COVID, I think I would keep going. I think there was a longer rate of time where I would just continuously churn workout.
Mm,
It's
mm,
almost like now I cannot do that. I can't.
mm.
I will try and it doesn't work until I go and lay out in the hammock or go out
Yeah.
to the garden or go for a walk, right? I literally can't do it.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm grateful for it. I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just been interesting to see.
I love that. I love that. The fact that you know exactly what it is it the hammock for you? Is that the thing?
I love it. Yes. I have a hammock in my backyard and I will just go lay out there with nothing else. No phone, no book, nothing.
Wow. Just the sun on your face.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. And you're in Florida, right? So you get that
Yeah.
like any day of the week. That's nice.
I
Come
have
on
that
now. Come
advantage.
on now.
A little bit
The rest
different.
of us in Ohio, what?
I know. What is it there? What do you do when it's cold? How do you recharge?
For me, I love watching movies. That's a big thing for me. I can't do nothing. I have to at least have something stimulating.
Yeah.
Other people are different, but movies are helpful. I love coffee shops, just reading a book. Those things are big for me.
That's great. That's good. Okay. So any tangible takeaways as we wrap this up that our listeners can really start applying immediately, just in terms of leadership, just those things that they can start to incorporate to become effective leaders.
Yeah, that's good. If I was going to give somebody just one single takeaway, like one tangible thing that they need to do, I would say it is super critical that you understand your strengths and your weaknesses as a leader.
Mhm.
I think oftentimes inauthenticity comes when you feel like you have to be all things to all people, and you feel like you can't say out loud the thing that is your genuine weakness. I
Yeah.
think if you're leading a team for any given amount of time, if you say your weaknesses out loud, your team is going to be like, "Yep, we already knew that." Thank you for acknowledging it. I think that's clear for people. So the
That's
sooner you can acknowledge it, the sooner they can come around and help you, the sooner that you can actually get help. And then you can just focus on your strengths and not have to feel like you have to pretend that you're super good at everything. That's just not the case.
what a relief too. What a relief for
Hmm.
people, leaders. I'm sure they
Hmm.
experienced that with you. Just maybe
Yeah,
taking a breath, like, oh, that's right. I don't have to be everything to everyone. It's not
right.
possible, right? So that's just so good. Thank you so much, Dan, for being on today. I really appreciate it. I learned so much listening to you, and I'm so excited for our audience to get to listen to you. And I'm going to link to your organizations and the link to your book in our show notes when this comes out, so people can know where to go. But anything else that just to let people know how they might be able to engage with you if they're interested in some leadership training.
Yep, absolutely. So if you want to engage in direct leadership training, go to owolabileadership.com. That'll give you all the information you need about having to come in and talk to your team, or doing any sort of coaching or anything like that. And I love working with people around the country on that. The other side of it is, with branches worldwide, we are doing some incredible work around the world. I'm super excited to have a laboratory with which to actually practice some of the things I'm teaching with leadership every day. I mean, this is hard work, identifying leaders and investing in them. So if anyone wants to be a part of that, branchesworldwide.org is a great place to go.
Amazing. Well, I will link to those again in the show notes. And thanks so much, Dan, for being on today.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks, Lauren.